they cost a fortune. They promise pure luxury, and they fail completely. From the room owners ended up hating, to the kitchen detail that looked brilliant on the blueprint and turned into a nightmare in real life. These are the most expensive luxury features that ended up ruining the people who bought them. Chapter 1. The luxury home features.
Some of the most expensive features ever added to a home made them actively worse. These were not amateur mistakes. They were designed by celebrated architects, sold to the wealthiest buyers on earth, and praised in every luxury magazine of their time. Some will make you laugh out loud. Some will make you genuinely angry at the designers who pulled this off with a straight face. Stay for number 1. It is not just a failed feature. It is a secret built into thousands of homes that most people walk past every single day without ever knowing it is there. These are 25 luxury home features that cost a fortune and failed completely. Number 25. The rooftop tennis court. In the 1920s and 30s, wealthy homeowners in Manhattan and Beverly Hills began paying contractors to install regulation-sized tennis courts on the roofs of their homes. Land in those cities was expensive. The roof was technically free. It seemed logical. Rooftops were never engineered for that kind of concentrated weight or lateral movement. The courts cracked within years. They leaked through every seam below them. Maintenance costs climbed every single season. When insurance companies began refusing to cover them in the 1940s, they disappeared almost overnight. The roof was free. The waterproofing bill was not. Number 24. The private bowling alley. Through the 1950s and 60s, custom-built bowling alleys became the definitive status symbol for American executives. Bing Crosby had one. Richard Nixon had one installed beneath the White House in 1947. The lanes themselves worked perfectly. The problem was everything surrounding them. Bowling requires regular lane oiling, pin machinery that breaks constantly, and a ventilation system powerful enough for a commercial facility housed inside a private home. They cost as much to maintain annually as a small business. Most were converted to home theaters within a decade. Turns out, bowling is more enjoyable when someone else handles the machinery. Number 23. The conversation pit. In the late 1950s, architects became obsessed with the conversation pit, a sunken square or circular seating area dropped 2 or 3 steps below the living room floor, designed to encourage face-to-face dialogue. Julia Schulman's photographs of them are still extraordinary. In real life, people twisted their ankles stepping in. Children fell constantly. Anyone who had too much to drink at a party became an insurance event. The 1980 Americans with Disabilities Act made them nearly impossible to include in any new build. The conversation pit asked people to sit in a hole in the floor. The 20th century eventually said no. Number 22. 2. The motorized revolving garage. In the 1930s and 40s, several luxury estates in America and Europe installed turntable garage floors, motorized platforms that rotated a car fully so the driver never had to reverse out. A well-documented installation at a Long Island estate completed in 1938 was featured in 2 architectural journals. The gears stripped, the motors burned out. The weight tolerances for a 1930s automobile were nothing like those of a car built in 1960, which were nothing like the vehicles parked in garages today. The engineering became obsolete faster than the concrete around it. They were replaced by longer driveways. Sometimes the simplest solution cost nothing at all. Number 21. the whole home pneumatic vacuum system. By the 1960s, central vacuum systems were sold as the future of residential cleaning. Pipes ran through every wall of the house. A homeowner plugged a hose into a wall outlet, and the unit in the basement did the rest. Builders charged a significant premium. The pipes cracked inside the walls. When a pipe failed inside a finished wall, the only way to fix it was to tear the wall open. The hoses were heavy and awkward. Most systems were abandoned while still technically functional, simply because using them required more effort than a regular vacuum. The future of cleaning still required dragging a hose up 3 flights of stairs. Number 20. Harvest Gold and Avocado built-in appliances. Through the late 1960s and into the 70s, luxury kitchen designers sold full coordinated appliance packages in Harvest Gold and Avocado Green. These were not cheap choices. Full integrated kitchen packages in these colors, with custom cabinetry built specifically around the dimensions of each appliance, ran into tens of thousands of dollars. The problem was that the color was the product. When the palette went out of fashion, and it went out very fast, the entire kitchen went with it. The appliances worked perfectly. The aesthetic was irreversible. Tens of thousands of functional kitchens were completely gutted because of a color decision. Number 19. The sunken living room. The sunken living room arrived in the early 1960s as a solution for defining space inside open-plan homes without using walls. Drop the living area 2 steps below the main floor, and it became intimate, dramatic, architecturally intentional. Every sunken living room ever built was a trip hazard, every single one. They were impossible to navigate safely for elderly visitors, invisible to anyone carrying something, and genuinely dangerous for anyone with even minor mobility difficulties. The open-plan home survived. The sunken portion of it did not. Number 18. The wired whole home intercom system. High-end homes built through the 1970s were wired with intercom panels in every bedroom, the kitchen, the garage, the garden. The concept was complete household connectivity, the ability to speak to anyone anywhere in the house from a fixed panel. The speakers crackled, the wiring degraded. Pressing the wrong button broadcast your private conversation to every room simultaneously. Repair required opening walls. They became obsolete the moment every member of the family acquired a mobile phone. A technology that cost thousands of dollars to install was made irrelevant by a device in a pocket. Number 17. The built-in 8-track entertainment room. In the late 1960s and early 70s, the very top of the luxury home market included dedicated entertainment rooms, paneled walls with built-in 8-track players, integrated reel-to-reel systems, and speaker arrays set permanently into custom cabinetry. These were not optional features. They were the centerpiece of the house. 8-track tapes were obsolete by 1980. The rooms built entirely around them became storage. The speaker systems were too proprietary to upgrade, and the cabinetry too specific to repurpose. An entire room engineered around a format that lasted roughly 12 years. Number 16. Glass brick exterior walls. Glass brick appeared first in the 1930s. Clean, modern, translucent walls that admitted light while maintaining privacy. By the 1980s, it came back with tremendous force. Entire exterior walls, shower surrounds, and home facades were constructed from glass brick in luxury homes across America and Europe. Individual crack blocks were nearly impossible to match or repair. The thermal performance was poor. Standard window and door frames did not work with them. Cleaning the mortar joints was hours of labor per session. One cracked block made an entire wall look wrong, and they all cracked eventually. Number 15. The heated outdoor driveway. From the 1980s onward, wealthy homeowners in cold climates began installing radiant heating systems beneath their driveways. Electric coils or hydronic tubing embedded directly into concrete, designed to melt snow on contact. No shoveling, no ice. A permanently clear driveway through every winter. The systems worked. The operating costs did not. Generating enough heat to melt snow across several hundred square meters of concrete produced energy bills that shocked even people accustomed to very large energy bills. Most were switched off within a few winters and left running silently under the concrete, permanently off. Number 14. The indoor residential waterfall. From the 1960s through the 80s, built-in waterfalls became a fixture in luxury homes, penthouses, and hotel-influenced residential architecture. Cascading walls of water in entrance halls, rock formations with pumps cycling thousands of liters per day. Every architecture magazine of the era photographed them beautifully. The humidity they generated destroyed everything nearby. Mold followed immediately. Pump systems required continuous maintenance. The sound, romantic in a showroom, became relentless inside a home. Most were drained and filled within 5 years. A home is not a hotel lobby. Almost everyone figures that out eventually. Number 13. Floor-to-ceiling mirror walls. In the 1970s, designers installed mirror tiles across living rooms, bedrooms, dining rooms, and hallways as a genuine high-end finish. Full walls, floor-to-ceiling. They caught light brilliantly and doubled the apparent size of every room. Mirror tiles are impossible to clean uniformly across an entire wall. One cracked tile looked catastrophic. The adhesive deteriorated over time, and living inside a room where you could see yourself from every angle turned out to be something most people found quietly exhausting over years. Number 12. The early residential elevator. Private home elevators have existed since the late 19th century, but the hydraulic versions, installed between roughly 1940 and 1980, were engineering problems that never fully resolved themselves. Separate machine rooms, oil reservoirs that leaked regularly, cables needing annual professional certification, shaft tolerances that became alarming the moment the maintenance schedule slipped. They were not elevators. They were liability generators housed inside a vertical shaft. Modern residential lifts are dramatically safer. The decades of problematic versions between the original concept and the working product are worth remembering every time someone calls something the future. Number 11. The built-in lava feature wall. In the 1970s, designers briefly installed large-scale lava lamp feature walls, glass panels containing colored viscous fluid and backlighting, built permanently into living room recesses. Some used dyed oil and water. Some scaled up actual lamp mechanisms to furniture dimensions. All required continuous heat to function. Without constant lighting, the fluid went cold, separated, and turned into an opaque sludge visible through the glass 24 hours a day. Heating elements burned out and were impossible to replace without removing the entire installation. Some innovations are genuinely ahead of their time. This was not among them. Number 10. X10 home automation. In the 1990s, X10 became the first widely adopted smart home standard in luxury construction. Systems ran through existing wiring to control lights, appliances, and security from a central panel. Architects spec'd it into high-end builds. Builders charged serious premiums. Industry magazines called it the home of the future. The communication protocol was slow, unreliable, and incapable of distinguishing between signals from different devices inside the same house. Lights activated on their own. Appliances cycled randomly. The system intercepted signals from neighboring homes and obeyed them. Every X10 panel ever installed in a luxury home is now either dead or permanently disabled. Number 9. The residential dumbwaiter. Victorian and Edwardian mansions built dumbwaiters as a functional necessity, a small mechanical lift for food, laundry, and supplies between floors, operating quietly beside the main staircase. They worked reliably in staffed houses. The problem arrived when homeowners in the 1950s and 60s began installing them as status features in ordinary suburban homes that did not require them, often without proper enclosures or safety mechanisms. Children climbed inside. Things fell down the open shaft. Counterweight cables snapped without warning. The dumbwaiter was not the problem. Installing it in a house without the trained staff who knew how to manage it was. Number 8. The basement indoor swimming pool. A private heated pool, ready at any hour of any day. No membership, no waiting. The selling point wrote itself. Builders charged between $200,000 and $500,000 for residential indoor pools installed in finished basements throughout the 1980s and 90s. The humidity a heated pool generates inside an enclosed basement space is extraordinary. It entered the subfloor. It attacked the structural joists. It traveled up through walls into the living spaces above. Industrial dehumidification systems cost as much annually to operate as a commercial fitness facility. The pools were often completely functional. The houses surrounding them were not. Number 7. The geodesic dome home. Buckminster Fuller introduced the geodesic dome in the 1940s as a mathematically perfect enclosure, the most efficient structure ever designed relative to its volume. Wealthy clients and design visionaries commissioned dome homes throughout the 1960s and 70s at enormous premiums, drawn to the promise of a lighter, stronger, cheaper to heat structure. Every interior wall was curved. Every corner was geometrically wrong. Standard doors, windows, cabinets, and furniture did not fit any of it. Custom fittings for every element in the house doubled and then tripled the projected cost. Fuller's dome was a perfect structure for storing things. It was an exceptionally strange structure for living inside. Number 6. The built-in aquarium wall. Floor-to-ceiling built-in aquarium walls became a fixture of ultra-high-end penthouses and residential properties from the 1990s onward. Thousands of liters of water behind glass set into a structural wall, housing marine life that required saltwater systems, precise temperature control, and weekly attention from a professional marine biologist. When the glass failed, and it failed into the living room. When the pump stopped overnight, the fish died before morning. Marine tanks at this scale require the same professional management as a public aquarium inside a private home, indefinitely and at private expense. Multiple luxury properties in London and Dubai have had aquarium walls removed at costs that exceeded their original installation price. Number 5. The pneumatic house mail system. This one is less known than it should be. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the grandest American and British estates, genuine Gilded Age properties with 30, 40, sometimes 50 rooms, installed pneumatic tube networks running entirely within the house itself, not between buildings, inside a single private residence. The owner could send handwritten notes, small packages, and correspondence to any room through a network of brass tubes running through the walls and between floors. It was not a gimmick. At the scale of a house with multiple wings spread across 4 or 5 floors, it solved a genuine problem. A note sent from the library arrived in the kitchen in seconds. A small item moved instantly across a distance that, inside a house that size, genuinely took several minutes to walk. The systems died when the estates themselves became unsustainable. Inheritance taxes in the 1920s and 30s made running a 40-room house impossible for most families, and the properties were sold, divided, or torn down. The tubes are still inside some of those walls, closed, silent, waiting for a message that stopped coming a century ago. Number 4. The retractable conservatory roof. The great Victorian conservatories attached to English country houses were genuine engineering achievements, enormous iron and glass structures designed to grow tropical plants in the English climate. By the late 19th century, the very wealthiest owners commissioned retractable versions, with gear and counterweight mechanisms that could open the roof entirely on warm days, turning the conservatory into an open garden. The mechanisms were extraordinary. Every joint between moving glass panels was a potential leak. The gear systems demanded a dedicated member of staff simply to maintain them. When country houses began losing their full household staff after World War I, the retractable roofs were locked shut and never operated again. Most are still locked. The gears have not moved in 100 years, but the mechanism is still there inside the iron frame, perfectly preserved, waiting for a hand that stopped turning it before living memory. Number 3. The integrated whole home audio room. In the early 1970s, a small number of luxury home builders in California and the northeastern United States began offering what they called the music room. Not a room for performing music, but a control room for sending different music to different rooms of the house simultaneously. Custom racks of amplifiers, selector switches, and receivers allowed independent audio zones throughout the property. The wiring alone represented weeks of installation labor. Every component was proprietary. When one element failed, and in a system that complex, something always failed first, there was no replacing it with a standard part from any ordinary supplier. The entire system had to be rebuilt from scratch or abandoned. Almost all of them were abandoned. The room full of blinking equipment behind a locked door was eventually replaced by an application on a telephone that cost nothing extra. And the application works better. Number 2. The residential mercury control system. This is where it stops being amusing. From the late 19th century through the mid-20th century, mercury was used extensively in residential control systems, not only in thermometers, but in structural infrastructure. Mercury float switches regulated boiler systems. Mercury tilt switches operated thermostats. In the most advanced homes of the early 20th century, entire heating and electrical control networks used mercury as the conducting element because it was reliable, responsive, and impossible to freeze in a cold British or American winter. It was also installed inside the walls and floors of homes where families were sleeping, eating, and raising children. When sealed components aged, cracked, and began to fail, mercury vapor moves silently through the house. It has no color, it has no smell. The neurological effects of sustained low-level exposure were not well understood until the 1960s. By then, these systems had been running inside thousands of homes for decades. Many were never removed during renovation. Removal was deemed too expensive, so they were sealed behind new plaster and new wallpaper and left there. Some of them are still there now. Number 1. The servant corridor. Here is the one that changes everything. The grandest homes ever built in Britain and America, the Victorian and Edwardian country houses, the Gilded Age mansions of Newport and Long Island, the great townhouses of London's Mayfair and New York's Upper East Side, were not designed as single buildings. They were designed as two buildings sharing the same footprint. There was the house the family used, and there was a second, hidden architecture running alongside it, embedded within it, winding through it like a shadow. Servants had entirely separate staircases, separate corridors, separate entrances, separate dining rooms, and on some properties, separate floors. The design intent was not operational convenience. It was total invisibility. A family of means should never have to witness the labor required to sustain them. The physical structure of the home was deliberately engineered to erase an entire class of human beings from sight, from consciousness, from the visual experience of walking through the house. This was not a passive reflection of social attitudes. It was an active, costly, deliberate architectural decision. Building a parallel hidden circulation system inside a house costs significantly more than not building one. Wealthy families paid a premium specifically to make people disappear. The social order these corridors were built to preserve collapsed in the early 20th century. The corridors themselves did not collapse with it. They are still standing, behind walls that look completely normal, inside houses where people live right now. Some of those back staircases have not felt a footstep in 100 years. The service entrances are bricked shut or bolted permanently. The call bells are silent on their original springs, but the architecture of erasure is still there. Every time you walk through a grand old house and find a door that opens to nothing, a staircase ending in a blank wall, a corridor running the wrong direction for no visible reason, you have found it. A home is supposed to be a place that holds people. But the most expensive homes ever constructed were designed above all other considerations to make certain people vanish entirely. And that design decision has outlasted every single person it was built to hide.
Chapter 2. The Luxury McMansion Features.
For about 30 years, the American dream came with a price tag and a floor plan. Bigger was better, and the grander the entrance, the higher the status. Builders promised that showpiece features were the reward for a life well lived, and for a while, almost everyone believed it. The columns went up, the foyers soared, the whirlpool tubs got craned in through second-floor windows, but here's the part the glossy brochures left out. Most of those expensive features never worked the way they were sold. Some failed quietly. A few are still costing families a fortune today. These are 25 luxury features that promised everything and delivered almost nothing. Before the countdown begins, here is the thread that ties every one of them together. None of these features were designed for the life you actually live inside a house. They were designed for the moment a stranger walks through it for the first time. They were built for the open house, the listing photo, the impressed neighbor standing in the driveway. Psychologists have a name for goods like these. They call them Veblen goods, things people want more precisely because they are expensive and visible. A feature does not have to be useful to raise your status, it only has to be seen. And once you understand that the entire McMansion was built to be seen, rather than lived in, every single item on this list starts to make a different kind of sense. There is a second force at work, and it is just as human. Researchers call it hedonic adaptation, the simple fact that the thrill of anything new fades fast. The first time a family stood in that soaring foyer or sank into that jetted tub, it felt like arrival. Within a few months, the novelty wore off, and the foyer was just a cold room, the tub just a chore to fill. The status thrill was front-loaded into the showing, and the first weeks of ownership, and then it evaporated, leaving behind the bills, the upkeep, and the cleaning that lasted for decades. People paid a permanent price for a temporary feeling. Keep that in mind as the numbers climb, because nearly every failure on this list is really the same trade in a different costume. So let us begin at the front door with the features that greeted every guest and aged the worst. Number 25. The two-story foyer. This was the first promise the house made, and it broke that promise every single month on the utility bill. The two-story foyer was a soaring entrance hall, often reaching 20 feet or more, with a chandelier hanging in the dead air above the front door. On a listing photo, it looked like wealth. In real life, it was a chimney. Heat rises, and in a foyer that tall, all the warm air a family paid to produce climbed straight to the ceiling where nobody was standing. In summer, the air conditioning fought a losing battle against a wall of west-facing glass. Owners spent years heating and cooling a volume of space that held nothing but a light fixture and an echo. And here's the cruel detail. That chandelier eventually needed cleaning or a bulb change 20 feet off the ground, above a hard floor and a staircase. Many families simply let it go dark rather than rent the scaffolding. The grand entrance became a dim, drafty box that cost a fortune to condition and served no human being inside the home. It impressed visitors for about 8 seconds. The owners paid for it for decades, and there is one final twist that the original buyers never saw coming. Tastes turned. What once read as grand began to read as dated and wasteful, and the very feature that sold the house in the first place became the thing buyers later quietly counted against it, picturing the heating bills before they had even reached the second step. Number 24. The faux columns out front. Nothing said arrival quite like a row of white columns framing the entryway. They suggested a plantation house, a courthouse, a sense of permanence and importance. There was only one problem on most of these homes. The columns were not holding anything up. They were hollow, wrapped in polyurethane or molded foam, glued to a brick facade as pure decoration. And foam does not age like stone. Water found the seams. Insects found the cores. Within a decade, many of these columns were cracked, stained, or rotting from the inside, their bases crumbling where sprinklers hit them every morning. The psychology here is almost too perfect. The column is one of the oldest symbols of strength in Western architecture, and builders sold a foam imitation of it to a generation that wanted to feel established. The symbol of permanence turned out to be the least permanent thing on the whole house. That is the McMansion in a single object, grandeur on the surface, hollow at the core, falling apart the moment the weather tested it. Number 23. The Juliet balcony. High on the front of the house, often above the entrance, sat a small ornamental balcony with a wrought iron railing and a pair of French doors behind it. It looked romantic from the street, a little nod to Verona and to old world charm. But there was no floor to it. The balcony was barely a foot deep, just enough for the railing with nothing to stand on. Anyone who opened those doors expecting fresh air on a summer evening met a guardrail and a 12-foot drop to the lawn. The Juliet balcony was architecture as pure costume. It existed only to be photographed and admired from below, never used, never stood on, never anything more than a face the house wore for the neighborhood. Those French doors, meanwhile, became one more place for drafts and leaks to sneak in. People paid extra for a balcony that was, in every functional sense, a window pretending to be something more. Number 22. The wet bar. Tucked into a corner of the family room or the basement was a small built-in bar, complete with a sink, a tiny refrigerator, a run of cabinets, and sometimes a row of stools. It promised a certain kind of life, the one in the liquor advertisements, where adults gathered for cocktails and easy conversation in their own private lounge. For the vast majority of families, that life never arrived. The wet bar got used a handful of times in the first year, then became a place to stack mail and dump phone chargers. The little sink sat dry, the bar fridge hummed away, cooling nothing but a single forgotten bottle. It occupied prime square footage that could have been storage, a desk, or simply open floor, and it delivered a fantasy of entertaining that most people's real lives never matched. There is a behavioral pattern at work here that shows up again and again on this list. People buy features for the person they imagine becoming, not the person they actually are. The wet bar was sold to the host of the party. The owner turned out to be a tired family that ate dinner in the kitchen. Marketers understood this perfectly. They were never really selling cabinets and a sink. They were selling a snapshot of a more glamorous version of your own life, and the gap between that snapshot and a Tuesday night is exactly where the money disappeared. Number 21. The Whirlpool Garden Tub. Now this one is special because it did not just fail to deliver, it actively turned against the people who installed it. The Whirlpool tub was the crown jewel of the master bathroom, an enormous jetted basin set into a tiled platform, often beneath a window, surrounded by a ledge for candles and folded towels. The promise was relaxation, a spa in your own home. The reality was a basin so large that the home's water heater could not fill it with hot water before the water already in it went cold. So most people used it once or twice, decided it was more trouble than it was worth, and never filled it again. But the real betrayal was inside the jets. A jetted tub pushes water through a network of internal pipes, and unless it is run and flushed regularly, those pipes hold standing water, soap residue, and skin. In tub after tub left unused, that hidden plumbing grew mold and bacteria that would shoot back out the next time anyone dared turn the jets on. People paid thousands for a luxury spa and ended up with a giant, cold, mold-breeding planter they were afraid to touch. The fantasy of relaxation became a thing to apologize for during the home inspection. Number 20, wall-to-wall carpet in the bathroom. For a stretch of years, soft carpeting wrapped right up to the toilet and around the tub was considered cozy, even upscale. Bare feet on a cold morning meant warm fiber instead of cold tile. It sounded thoughtful. It was a quiet disaster. A bathroom is the wettest room in the house, full of splashes, steam, and the occasional overflow, and carpet holds every drop of it. The padding underneath stayed damp, trapped against the subfloor, and went to work breeding mildew and odor that no amount of cleaning could fully reach. Around the base of the toilet in particular, the carpet absorbed exactly what you would least want it to absorb and held it. What was sold as comfort became a permanent source of smell and rot, and eventually a guaranteed gut job for any new owner. The instinct behind it was human and understandable, the wish to make a hard room feel softer. The execution ignored the single most important fact about that room, which is that everything in it gets wet. By the time the smell became impossible to ignore, the damage had usually crept past the carpet and into the subfloor underneath, turning a cozy idea into a demolition project. It is one of the clearest cases on this list of comfort and function pulling in opposite directions and function winning every time. Number 19, the built-in intercom system. This was the house of the future, at least for one brief moment. A wall-mounted panel in the kitchen connected to speakers in every room, so a parent could call the kids down to dinner without raising their voice, and music could pipe through the whole home from a central unit. It felt like living in something modern and important. Then the future actually arrived in everyone's pocket, and it made the entire system pointless overnight. Why use a crackling wall panel when a text message reaches the same kid in the same room? The intercoms went silent. The technology inside them aged into obsolescence, parts no longer made, repair no longer possible, and so today in countless homes, these dead panels remain screwed to the walls because removing one leaves a hole and an unpainted scar where the unit used to be. They are little tombstones for a vision of the future that the future itself replaced. Owners do not even see them anymore. They have become part of the wall, as useful as a fossil. Number 18, the central vacuum system. On paper, it was brilliant. Instead of dragging a heavy vacuum from room to room, the home had a network of pipes inside the walls leading to a heavy-duty motor unit in the garage or basement. A person plugged a lightweight hose into a wall port, and all the dust got sucked away to a central canister, far from the living space, so the air stayed cleaner and the noise stayed out in the garage. It was genuinely clever engineering, and that is part of what makes its failure sting. For a feature that genuinely tried to be useful, it failed in deeply frustrating ways. The hoses were long, stiff, and awkward to wrestle around furniture. The wall ports cracked, and the pipes inside the walls, completely sealed away, were exactly where clogs love to form, in a spot no homeowner could ever reach to clear. When the motor unit finally died, replacing it meant tracking down a specialized part for a system the world had largely moved on from, often at a price that made a simple modern vacuum look like a gift. So the central vacuum quietly retired. The wall ports stayed, capped and forgotten, while the family bought a regular vacuum like everyone else, an entire hidden system built into the bones of the house abandoned in place. Number 17, the bonus room over the garage. Here was free space, or so it seemed, a whole extra room perched above the 3-car garage, marketed as a playroom, a home gym, a teenager's hideaway. Builders loved it because it added a big number to the square footage with almost no extra foundation. Families loved the idea of it. Then they tried to actually use it. A room sitting on top of an unconditioned, uninsulated garage has nothing warm beneath it and roof directly above it, which means it bakes in the summer and freezes in the winter while the rest of the house stays comfortable. The heating and cooling system designed for the main body of the home could never quite reach it, so the bonus room became the room nobody wanted to be in for half the year, too hot or too cold, slowly filling with the boxes and exercise equipment of good intentions. It counted toward the value of the home and contributed almost nothing to the life inside it. A perfect example of square footage that exists on paper and disappears in practice. Number 16, the interior catwalk. Inside that towering foyer we talked about earlier, builders often ran a second-floor hallway as an open bridge, a catwalk with a decorative railing. So the upstairs bedrooms looked down into the entrance hall below. It was meant to feel grand, like a hotel lobby or a grand opera house. What it actually did was take usable floor space on the second floor and turn it into a guardrail around a hole. All that volume in the center of the house, the very space that made the foyer feel impressive, was square footage that could never hold a bed, a desk, or a closet. It was footage you paid for, heated, cooled, and dusted, that existed only to be air. The catwalk also meant that every sound from the entry traveled straight up to the bedrooms, and every conversation upstairs drifted down to anyone at the door. Grandeur, it turns out, is expensive to maintain and terrible at keeping a secret. Now, before we go any further into the house, a quick pause. If this is the kind of history that fascinates you, the strange and forgotten things hiding inside American homes, then this channel is built for you, and subscribing means the next investigation comes straight to you. Now, back to the countdown, because the features only get bolder and the failures only get bigger from here. Number 15, the home theater room. For a while, the ultimate sign that you had made it was a dedicated home theater. A windowless room with tiered seating, a projector, a screen the size of a wall, and a rack of black equipment with 100 blinking lights. It was a private cinema, sold as the end of ever needing to leave the house for entertainment. The trouble is that home theaters were built around the technology of a specific moment, and technology does not hold still. The projector that cost a fortune became dim and outdated. The surround sound receiver, the disc players, the tangle of cables, all of it aged into a museum of dead formats. Meanwhile, screens got better, cheaper, and flat enough to hang anywhere, so the whole reason for a dedicated dark room evaporated. Families found they would rather watch in the comfortable living room than file into a windowless bunker. The theater became the room with the good couch that nobody used, a dark cave full of obsolete electronics, often converted years later back into the bedroom or office it should have been all along. And here is the quiet trap inside it. Because the room had cost so much to build, many owners felt obligated to keep using it long after they had stopped enjoying it. throwing good money after bad on upgrades to justify the original spend. Economists call that the sunk cost fallacy, the very human refusal to walk away from something just because of what it already cost you. The home theater was where a lot of families learned that lesson, the expensive way. Number 14. The front-facing 3-car garage. This one changed the entire face of American neighborhoods, and not for the better. As garages grew from 1 car to 2 to 3, builders pushed them to the front of the house, often jutting out ahead of the front door itself. Architects and critics gave these homes a name. They called them snout houses because the garage sticks out like a snout and dominates everything. The result was a streetscape where the first thing anyone saw, the thing taking up half the front of the home, was a blank wall of garage doors. The front door, the porch, the human part of the house got shoved to the side or hidden behind the cars. A garage built to hold 3 vehicles and broadcast prosperity ended up making the home itself look like an afterthought attached to a parking structure. People paid a premium for that third bay, and in exchange the house lost its face. Curb appeal, the very thing the size was supposed to deliver, was the first casualty, and the cost went beyond the single house. When every home on a street leads with its garage, the whole neighborhood turns its back on the sidewalk. The front porches where neighbors once waved and talked vanished behind a row of overhead doors, and with them went a small but real piece of how a community knows itself. A feature bought to broadcast individual success quietly made the entire street lonelier. That is the strange arithmetic of status. What lifts one house above the others often costs something that everyone, including the buyer, used to share. Number 13. Tray and coffered ceilings. Plain ceilings were for ordinary homes, so the upscale answer was the tray ceiling, with a recessed center section, and the coffered ceiling, with a grid of sunken panels and heavy beams, all of it wrapped in elaborate crown molding. From below it read as custom, expensive, architectural, and in fairness, it did add a sense of depth to a room, but every one of those ledges, recesses, and molding profiles became a shelf for dust in places no broom could comfortably reach. Cobwebs gathered in the upper corners of the coffers. The intricate molding cracked at the seams as the house settled, and repairing it required matching old profiles that were never quite available again. What looked like permanent craftsmanship was often just foam and finish-grade trim assembled fast, and it aged into a high, ornate dust collector that dated the entire room the moment the style fell out of fashion. A feature designed to never go out of style went out of style anyway, the way all of them eventually do. Number 12. The formal living room. Here is one of the genuine ghosts of the American floor plan. Near the front door, right where guests entered, sat a beautiful room full of the nicest furniture in the house, the good sofa, the matching chairs, the coffee table books nobody opened, and almost nobody ever sat in it. This was the company room, the room kept pristine for visitors who rarely came, while the family crowded into the den or the kitchen where life actually happened. The formal living room was a stage set for a version of social life that had mostly already faded by the time these homes were built. It quietly became a vanished room, present on the plan, paid for in full dusted weekly, and lived in never. The psychology behind it is the same one driving this whole list, the wish to present a certain image to the outside world, even at the cost of the space inside your own home. People surrendered an entire room to the opinion of guests and then waited for guests who did not come. In one of these homes today, the formal living room is usually the first space to have been quietly repurposed, turned into an office, a playroom, anything with an actual use, the matching furniture long since given away. The room outlived the social ritual it was built for by decades, a stage waiting for a play that the culture had already stopped performing. Number 11. The outdoor kitchen. As the showpieces moved outside, the backyard got its own version of excess. The full outdoor kitchen, a built-in grill, a stone counter, a small refrigerator, sometimes a sink, and a pizza oven, all installed permanently on the patio. The dream was endless, summer entertaining, the family chef holding court while guests gathered around. The reality met the weather. A refrigerator and appliances built for indoors sat exposed to rain, humidity, freezing winters, and blazing sun, and they corroded and failed far faster than anyone expected. The stainless steel pitted. The outdoor fridge gave out, mice discovered the cabinets. And in most of the country, the season when anyone actually wanted to cook outside lasted only a few months, leaving the rest of the year for an expensive stone monument slowly weathering in the yard. People could have bought a good grill on wheels and rolled it into the garage each winter. Instead, they cemented a kitchen into the patio and watched the elements take it apart one season at a time. Number 10. The skylights. We are now into the top 10. And from here, the failures stop being merely wasteful and start being genuinely costly. Skylights came first. The pitch was irresistible. Free natural light pouring down from above, a connection to the open sky from inside your own bedroom or hallway, and in the first year they delivered exactly that. The problem is that a skylight is a hole cut into the one part of the house whose entire job is to keep water out, the roof. Every skylight is a permanent bet against the roof, and over time, the seals around them break down and water begins to find its way in, often staining the ceiling long before anyone realizes where it is coming from. On top of the leaks, that overhead glass let heat pour in during summer and bleed out during winter, working against the heating and cooling all year, and the relentless sunlight faded the carpet, the furniture, and the artwork directly beneath it. A feature sold as light and openness became, for many owners, a slow leak waiting to happen and a reason the sofa faded unevenly. The sky, it turns out, is better admired through a wall. The cruelest part of a skylight failure is the timing. The seals fail gradually, so the leak begins as a faint discoloration on the ceiling that is easy to dismiss, and by the time the stain spreads into something undeniable, water has often been working on the framing and insulation above the ceiling for months. A small, hidden problem that arrives with the next hard rain on a schedule nobody chose. Number 9. The multiple gas fireplaces. A fireplace in the living room was traditional, so the upscale move was a fireplace in every gathering space, the family room, the master bedroom, sometimes the master bathroom, all of them gas, all of them controlled by a switch on the wall. It signaled warmth, comfort, and abundance. In practice, the decorative gas fireplace is one of the most ignored features in the entire house. The flames behind the glass produce a strange, lifeless flicker over fake ceramic logs, and they throw off so little real heat that most people never bother turning them on. Worse, each one is connected to a flue or vent, which becomes a permanent path for cold outside air to seep into the room when the fireplace sits unused, which is almost always. So the home ended up with 3 or 4 of these glass boxes, each one a small draft and a small maintenance worry, each one lit perhaps once during the holidays for the look of it, then switched off and forgotten. Real warmth was never the goal. The goal was the idea of warmth mounted on the wall, multiplied by however many rooms could fit one. Number 8. The master suite sitting room. As master bedrooms swelled into master suites, builders added an attached sitting area, a separate little lounge off the bedroom with room for a pair of chairs and a small table, marketed as a private retreat where a couple could read or have coffee away from the rest of the family. It sounded civilized. It became one of the emptiest spaces in the home. People do not retreat to a chair 15 feet from their own bed. They go downstairs or outside, or they stay in the bedroom. So the sitting room sat, holding a chair nobody chose to sit in, a reading nook nobody read in, accumulating the laundry that had nowhere else to land. It was bedroom-size square footage stripped of any bedroom purpose, heated and cooled and insured like the rest of the suite, and used by no one. The fantasy was a refined, restful private life. The outcome was a wide spot in the bedroom, where the ironing board lived. Number 7. The grand curved staircase. This was the trophy of the entryway, the sweeping curved staircase, sometimes splitting into 2 arms that curled up both sides of the foyer toward a balcony above. It was the staircase of movie entrances and prom photographs, the single feature most likely to make a buyer gasp during a showing, and it was wildly inefficient. A curved or double staircase consumes an enormous footprint on both floors, far more than a simple, safe, ordinary staircase, and all that footprint comes straight out of usable living space. The grand curve was also harder to climb safely than a standard run of stairs, with steps that pinch narrow on the inside of the curve, exactly the kind of detail that matters more with every passing year. Builders sold the dramatic descent, the entrance you could make in front of guests. What they delivered was a space-hungry sculpture that ate 2 stories of square footage to provide a function. A plain staircase performed better in a fraction of the room with less risk underfoot. Number 6. The Cathedral Great Room Ceiling. The Great Room was the heart of the McMansion, a vast combined living space, and its signature was the ceiling that soared 2 stories overhead, sometimes to a peak with exposed beams and a wall of windows climbing all the way up. It was the most dramatic room in the house. It was also the most expensive room to live in every single day. All that volume had to be heated in winter and cooled in summer, and just like the grand foyer, the warm air a family paid for rose straight to a peak 25 feet up where no person ever stood. The wall of glass leaked heat in both directions and turned the room into an oven on a sunny afternoon. And then there were the practical indignities, the light bulbs and smoke detectors near the peak that required a special ladder or a hired hand to reach, the cobwebs no one could clear, the curtains that needed scaffolding to hang. A room built to take your breath away took your money instead quietly, month after month in every season of the year. And unlike a tub or a wet bar, this one could never be ignored or repurposed. The volume was permanent, baked into the shape of the roof itself, which meant the only way out was a major renovation to drop the ceiling or seal the glass, the kind of project that costs more than the feature ever added to the home. The grandest room in the house was also the one that locked its owners into its mistakes. Number 5. Open concept everything. For years, the open concept floor plan was treated as the obvious, unquestionable upgrade. The walls between the kitchen, dining, and living areas knocked out into one enormous shared space. It photographed beautifully, it felt airy and modern, and it dominated every renovation show. But living in it revealed what the photos could never show. With no walls, there was nowhere for sound to stop. So the clatter of dishes, the television, a phone call, and a conversation all happened in one acoustic soup where no one could escape the noise of anyone else. Cooking smells drifted from the stove across every soft surface in the combined space. Heating and cooling one giant volume cost more than conditioning smaller, separable rooms. And privacy, the simple ability to do one thing in one room while someone else did another thing in peace, vanished entirely. Walls were never the enemy. Walls contained sound, hid mess, held heat, and gave each person a door to close. An entire generation tore them out chasing openness, and slowly discovered that the rooms grandma kept separate were separate, for reasons that had nothing to do with being old-fashioned. There is even a quiet psychology to why open concepts sold so hard. A wall-less space photographs as bigger and brighter, and it let buyers picture endless togetherness. The whole family gathered happily in one bright room. The picture left out the reality of 4 people trying to do 4 different things within earshot of each other, with nowhere to retreat. The dream was connection. The daily experience for many families was simply never being able to get away from the noise. Number 4. The one-sided facade. This is where the McMansion's whole philosophy gets exposed in the building materials themselves. Many of these homes presented a front dressed in stone veneer or brick, rich and substantial looking from the street. But the stone often stopped at the corner, turned to the side of the house, and the expensive veneer gave way abruptly to plain vinyl siding, as if the budget ran out the moment the home was no longer facing the road. Critics named this too. They called it facadism, a building that wears its quality only on the face that gets seen. It is the most honest confession the McMansion ever made, in brick and vinyl, that the entire point was the impression on the people driving past, not the integrity of the structure all the way around. The front was for the neighbors, the sides were for nobody, so the sides got nothing. A home is supposed to be the same house from every angle. This was a billboard with bedrooms behind it, and the deeper you go into the building, the more the same logic repeats. The materials a buyer would touch and see during a showing were the good ones. The materials hidden in the walls, the framing, the insulation, the things that determine whether a house lasts 50 years or 20, were chosen to hit a price not to endure. The one-sided facade was just the most visible confession of a priority that ran all the way to the studs. Number 3. The formal dining room. We have reached the ghosts at the very top of the list, and the formal dining room may be the most haunted room in the modern American home. separate from the kitchen, sometimes separate from everything. It held a long table, a set of chairs that matched the table, a china cabinet full of dishes used twice a year, and a chandelier hanging over all of it. It was built for the grand holiday dinner, the multi-course meal with the good china, the kind of gathering that for most families happened a few times a year at most, if at all. The rest of the year, the formal dining room sat in silence, a fully furnished, fully heated monument to an occasion that rarely came. Families ate in the kitchen, at the counter, in front of the television. The dining room waited. It is the purest, vanished room of them all, the space that exists on every floor plan and in almost no one's daily life. A room dedicated to a version of family ritual that was already slipping away when the table was first delivered. People paid for the holiday and lived in the everyday, and the everyday never needed that room. What kept these rooms on floor plans, long after they stopped being used, was pure social expectation. A home of a certain size was supposed to have a formal dining room, the way a suit was supposed to have a jacket, and builders kept including them because buyers kept expecting to see one, even as everyone privately knew they would eat at the kitchen counter. It was a room built not out of need, but out of the fear of a house looking incomplete. The grandmother who set that table for Thanksgiving understood it. The generations who inherited the floor plan mostly inherited an empty room and the faint guilt of not using it. Number 2, the cavernous master bathroom. Just behind the worst offender of all sits the giant master bathroom, the spa that was never relaxing. As bathrooms grew into showpieces, they sprawled into vast tiled chambers with the whirlpool tub on its platform, a separate glass shower, 2 sinks set far apart, a private compartment for the toilet, and acres of cold tile floor in between. It was sold as a personal retreat, a daily escape into luxury. The reality was a room too big to ever feel warm or intimate, where the heat escaped into all that open space and the tile stayed cold underfoot in every season. The enormous tub, as we covered, went mostly unused. The sheer size meant more surfaces to clean, more grout to scrub, more square footage to heat for a room a person occupies for a few minutes at a time. The fantasy was the hotel spa. The outcome was a chilly, echoing, high-maintenance hall where the most used object was, in the end, the same toilet and sink found in any ordinary bathroom, 1/4 the size. Bigger did not mean more relaxing. It just meant more to clean and more to heat for the same 5 minutes a day. And now the number 1 luxury feature that cost a fortune and failed most completely of all. Number 1. Synthetic stucco. This one did not just disappoint, it rotted homes from the inside out and triggered some of the most expensive repair bills in the entire history of residential building. The material is known by its industry name, EIFS, an exterior system of foam board and synthetic coating troweled over the outside of the house to mimic traditional stucco. It gave builders a smooth, elegant Mediterranean look for a fraction of the cost of the real thing. And for a stretch of years it went up on upscale homes everywhere. The flaw was catastrophic and invisible. The system was sealed so tightly that when water inevitably got in around a window, a door, any small gap, it had no way to get back out. So the water sat, trapped between the synthetic skin and the wooden frame of the house, and it did what trapped water always does. It rotted the structure, the framing decayed silently behind a beautiful, intact-looking exterior, and homeowners often had no idea anything was wrong until the damage was severe, and the repair bill ran into the tens of thousands, sometimes far more. The failures grew so widespread that they led to major lawsuits and forced changes across the industry. In parts of the country where these homes went up fastest, particularly the humid Southeast, entire neighborhoods of upscale houses turned out to be quietly rotting behind their flawless walls, and the legal fallout reshaped how the material could be used at all. Think about the cruelty of that for a moment. The most expensive failure on this entire list was the one you could not see, hidden behind the very surface that was supposed to be the home's finest feature. A standard home inspection often missed it completely because nothing looked wrong, and the rot was only confirmed when someone drilled into the wall and tested the moisture trapped inside. Families discovered the truth in the worst possible way during the sale of the home, when a buyer's inspector found in an afternoon what had been hiding for 15 years. The house looked perfect right up until the wall was opened and the rot poured out. That is the McMansion's final lesson, written in decayed lumber. A beautiful surface can hide a ruined structure, and the prettier the skin, the longer the rot goes unnoticed. So there they are, 25 luxury features that promise the world and quietly fail the people who paid for them. And if a single thread runs through every one, it is this. Each of these features was built for the moment of being seen, the showing, the photograph, the impressed glance from the driveway, and almost none of them were built for the long, ordinary years of actually living inside the walls. That is the difference between a status symbol and a home. Here is the part that turns this whole story around. While the mansions with their foam columns and rotting stucco and cold cavernous bathrooms were busy impressing the neighbors, the modest homes built decades earlier were quietly doing the one thing that actually matters. They were lasting, the bungalow, the farmhouse, the solid post-war house your family grew up in. The homes built before all of this were made with real materials, sensible rooms, and walls that knew what they were for. They were not built to be seen. They were built to be lived in, and that is exactly why so many of them are still standing, still warm, still holding families, long after the trendy palaces started to leak. It is worth sitting with that contrast, because it is the whole point. The older home rarely had a soaring foyer or a grand double staircase. It had plaster walls thick enough to muffle sound, rooms sized to actual human activities, real wood that had already proven it could last half a century, and craftsmanship that was never meant to be photographed. Because nobody back then was selling status by the square foot, every dollar went into the bones of the house rather than its costume. The result is a kind of quiet that the McMansion never achieved, the security of living inside something built to outlive you rather than impress a stranger for 8 seconds at an open house. But those older homes hold their own secrets, and not all of them are charming. Behind the plaster and under the floorboards of a house built before 1980, there are things hiding right now that the family living there has no idea about. Some of them are dangerous, the kind of thing that has no business still being in a wall. Some of them are quietly worth real money, original features that today's builders cannot replicate at any price. And most owners cannot tell the difference between the two, which is exactly where the danger and the cost live. That is the entire reason this channel exists, and it is why we put together a field guide called The House That's Hiding Things from You. It walks through 26 features commonly found in homes built before 1980, room by room, and for each one it gives a clear verdict in plain language. What it is and how to recognize it, why it disappeared. Whether it is a danger, a treasure, or both, and exactly what to do about it now. No technical background needed, no expert required for every little question. Just a clear answer for the house you actually live in. There is a full printable inspection checklist inside that you can walk your own home with this week. If you own, are buying, or are inheriting a home from that era, the link is waiting for you in the description below, and you can name a fair price for it. Knowing whether what is hidden in your walls is dangerous, valuable, or both is the kind of knowledge that pays for itself the first time it matters. Your house has been trying to tell you something for a very long time. The mansions on this list never learned to listen. The older homes are still talking. The only question left is whether you can understand what they are saying.
Chapter 3. The Luxury Kitchen Features.
Some of the most expensive kitchens ever built are now worth less than the appliances that failed inside them. Not because of neglect, because the features that made them expensive were wrong from the start. Some of what follows will make you laugh. Some of it will make you look at your own kitchen and feel something harder to name. These are 25 luxury kitchen features that cost a fortune and failed completely. 25. The built-in bread maker. In 1994, European appliance brands began embedding full-sized bread makers directly into upper cabinetry as seamless integrations. The pitch, fresh bread every morning, no counter clutter, all invisible. Architects love the concept. Installation costs ran between $3,000 and $6,000. Here is what nobody mentioned. Bread making requires precise humidity management that a sealed wooden cabinet absolutely cannot maintain. The loaves came out dense, wet, or raw in the center. Most units were ripped out within 2 years. The cavities became dead storage. The installations that survived longest were in vacation homes where nobody actually used them. 24. The hydroponic herb garden wall. Not the countertop version you can buy now for $40. The original. In the early 2000s, high-end kitchen designers began building floor-to-ceiling hydroponic walls behind glass panels, with ultraviolet lighting and drip irrigation plumbed directly into the home's waterline. Starting price, $15,000. The concept was genuinely elegant. The failure was simple. Kitchens are not designed for constant internal wall moisture. Within 2 to 3 years, the systems began growing mold colonies behind the glass. Invisible, spreading, structural. Most were demolished entirely. Several homeowners sued. 23. The pot filler. Let me be fair to this one for a moment because it is not entirely stupid. A pot filler is an articulated faucet mounted above the stove that swings out to fill pots in place. In European professional kitchens, they made sense. American luxury homes adopted them through the 90s and the 2000s at installation costs between $500 and $2,000, depending on the wall plumbing situation. And then homeowners realized you still have to carry the full pot to the sink to drain it every time. Without exception, the pot filler solved exactly half a problem. It is now in millions of kitchens that never use it. Most real estate agents have learned not to mention it. If you are watching this list and already thinking of things in your own kitchen that cost real money and quietly stop getting used, you might want to subscribe before we get to the items that will actually sting. It gets significantly worse from here. 22. The built-in pasta maker. In the late 1980s, Italian appliance manufacturers began offering fully integrated pasta extrusion machines designed to mount inside cabinetry, flush with the countertop, with a dedicated waterline connection. The machine would mix, knead, and extrude fresh pasta on demand. Price in today's dollars, roughly $8,000 to $12,000 installed. Cleaning it took 45 minutes. Using it required planning. The pasta was genuinely excellent. The reality was that nobody making fresh pasta at home at that frequency also has the schedule to maintain a plumbed-in machine. Most owners used it 4 times, then stopped, then lost the proprietary cleaning kit. 21. The warming drawer. Here is something nobody tells you about warming drawers. They were not designed for food. The original warming drawer, popularized in high-end American kitchen builds of the 1980s and 90s, was intended primarily to warm plates before serving, a practice borrowed from restaurant service culture. Designers priced them between $800 and $2,000. Homeowners immediately started using them to hold food warm during dinner preparation. That is not what they were calibrated for. Food dried out, textures changed. Nothing held temperature consistently for more than 20 minutes. They are still installed by default in certain luxury kitchen packages. Most users have never once read the manual. 20. The built-in wok station. In the 1990s, as Pacific Rim cooking entered mainstream American food culture, several premium appliance brands began offering integrated wok stations. A recessed circular burner with a ring cradle, producing outputs of up to 45,000 British thermal units per hour. Restaurant grade. The commercial logic was sound. The residential logic was not. Those burner outputs require commercial ventilation systems to manage the combustion byproducts and grease smoke. Residential kitchens cannot safely handle that output without a complete hood rebuild costing $10,000 or more. Many installations failed their inspections. Several insurance companies refused to cover them. The wok burner is still available. The ventilation cost is still not disclosed upfront. 19. Copper countertops. Copper was sold as a living surface, one that would develop a patina over time, turning from bright orange to a deep complex brown. That was accurate. What the showroom did not demonstrate was the full behavior of copper under actual kitchen conditions. Copper reacts with acidic foods. Lemon juice, tomatoes, vinegar, all leave permanent marks within seconds. Not stains, etch marks. The surface changes at the molecular level on contact. It costs between $100 and $200 per square foot installed. Some owners grew to love the chaos of it. Most did not. There is no halfway with copper. You either accept that your countertop will look dramatically different in 6 months, or you spend the next decade resenting a surface you paid for. 18. The restaurant-grade home range. This part never made sense to me, and then it did. In the late 1990s, brands like Viking and Wolf began marketing commercial-style ranges directly to home cooks. 6 burners, heavy cast iron, restaurant output. They cost between $5,000 and $15,000 and became a status symbol so powerful that they appeared in homes where the owners ate takeout 4 nights a week. The actual problem was not the range. It was everything surrounding it. Commercial ranges produce heat output that exceeds what standard residential cabinetry, flooring, and ventilation can safely handle. Cabinets above them charred, counters warped, and when the burner igniters eventually failed, as they always do, replacement parts cost more than a standard range entirely. 17. The built-in deep fryer. Some items on this list were bad ideas dressed up as good ones. The residential built-in deep fryer is a bad idea dressed up as a very expensive bad idea. Installed into countertop cutouts in the late 1980s and 90s at costs between $2,000 and $4,000, they used open oil tanks requiring manual cleaning after every use. The grease smell embedded itself into cabinetry within weeks. Fire risk was genuine. Resale value impact was immediate and severe. Real estate agents have been known to charge a premium just to list homes that contain one. That is the entire story. 16. Marble as a primary work surface. Here is something nobody tells you at the marble showroom. Marble is a calcium carbonate stone. It reacts chemically with everything acidic. Wine, coffee, lemon, tomato, vinegar, all of them etch the surface permanently on contact. Not stain, etch. The stone actually changes at the molecular level. A marble countertop in a working kitchen becomes a record of every meal ever made on it, written permanently into the surface. Some designers call this character. Some homeowners call it $8,000 of regret. The Italian quarries supplying premium grades of Calicata and Statuario marble are well aware of this dynamic. The showrooms are typically not eager to open that conversation. 15. The Integrated Kitchen Command Center. In 2005, a wave of high-end kitchen designers began building dedicated digital hubs into cabinetry, touchscreens, built-in computers, speakers, and internet connectivity integrated behind custom panels. The concept was the kitchen of the future. Costs ran between $5,000 and $20,000 for the hardware and millwork combined. Within 4 years, the touchscreen technology was obsolete. The operating systems could not be updated. The screens yellowed. The built-in computers could not run modern software. They became the most expensive clocks in the history of residential architecture. Most were removed during the next renovation cycle. The millwork they were built into had to go with them. 14. The trash compactor. The residential trash compactor had a genuine moment, roughly 1970 to 1990. The promise was straightforward: compress household waste, reduce bag usage, make garbage management more efficient. In the era before widespread municipal recycling, it made a certain sense. Costs ran between $300 and $1,000 installed. The collapse came from two directions simultaneously. Recycling programs made compacting mixed waste actively counterproductive. And when the compactor jammed, which it did, the service call cost more than a year of accumulated trash savings. Most were entombed behind new cabinetry during kitchen renovations rather than removed, because removal costs more than abandonment. They are still in there, in thousands of kitchens, right now. 13. The smart refrigerator touchscreen. Samsung launched its first internet-connected refrigerator with a built-in screen in 2016. It cost $4,000 and was designed to display family calendars, recipes, and grocery lists. The screen was a 21.5-inch display running Android. Within 3 years, Samsung stopped supporting the operating system version it used. The screen still worked physically, but the app stopped functioning. The calendar sync broke. Owners were left with a $4,000 refrigerator displaying a frozen, unupdatable interface. Samsung offered no replacement path. The refrigerator continued to cool correctly. The screen became wallpaper. Expensive, permanent, unremovable wallpaper on an otherwise working appliance. 12. The under-counter refrigerator drawer. Sub-Zero began offering refrigerator drawers, units that pull out like cabinet drawers while maintaining refrigeration, in the late 1990s as a premium add-on for kitchen islands. Price per unit between $2,000 and $4,000. The concept was elegant, but the mechanical reality was not. Drawer refrigeration units have significantly shorter service lives than upright units because the compressor works against gravity and the drawer seals wear faster under constant horizontal stress. Most needed major service within 7 years. Repair costs for a Sub-Zero drawer unit often approach the replacement cost of the unit itself. Owners frequently discover this on a Tuesday morning, wondering why everything smells wrong. 11. The lava stone cooking surface. In the early 2000s, European kitchen manufacturers began producing cooking surfaces made from actual volcanic basalt, lava stone slabs heated from below, used as an alternative to conventional burners. The stone distributed heat slowly and held it intensely. Cooking on one was genuinely different. Steaks came out extraordinary. The problems arrived in 3 categories: a heating time of up to 45 minutes before the surface was ready for use, an inability to rapidly adjust temperature once it was set, and cracking under repeated thermal stress. The stone, once cracked, was irreplaceable in most cases because the slabs were custom cut. Several brands quietly discontinued the product line while still listing it in their catalogs. 10. The indoor downdraft grill. Here is something nobody tells you about grilling indoors. The smoke is not the only problem. Indoor grills with downdraft ventilation systems were sold through the 1980s and 90s as a way to bring the outdoor grill experience into the kitchen. They cost between $2,000 and $5,000 installed. The downdraft system pulled smoke downward through a vent beneath the grill, supposedly removing it before it spread. It did not work above medium heat. Above medium heat, the smoke outpaced the ventilation capacity and filled the kitchen. The grease collection systems clogged at frequencies that manual cleaning could not keep pace with. Fire inspectors in several jurisdictions began flagging them by the mid-90s. 9. The refrigerated pantry drawer. Several luxury appliance manufacturers in the 2000s offered refrigerated pull-out pantry drawers, shallow refrigeration units designed to keep produce, dairy, or charcuterie at specific temperatures while remaining accessible from a standing position. The ergonomics were excellent. The refrigeration physics were not. A shallow horizontal refrigeration unit loses temperature every time it is opened, which in a pantry is frequently. The compressor cycles constantly to compensate. Energy consumption ran 3 to 4 times higher than a standard refrigerator per cubic foot of storage. Most owners noticed it on their electricity bill before they noticed it anywhere else. 8. The integrated espresso machine. In the early 2000s, several European kitchen system manufacturers began offering full-size commercial espresso machines integrated flush into cabinetry, plumbed directly into the water line with a dedicated wastewater outlet. Costs started at $8,000 for the machine before the millwork. The machines themselves were extraordinary, but the problem was maintenance. Espresso machines require descaling, gasket replacement, and group head cleaning on schedules that a plumbed-in installation makes extremely difficult without partial cabinet disassembly. Most owners either neglected the maintenance entirely or discovered that servicing the machine meant dismantling the surrounding cabinetry first. Several manufacturers no longer produce the integration hardware at all. 7. The toe kick vacuum system. Here is something nobody tells you about this one, and I mean nobody. It was not actually a bad idea. The toe kick vacuum, a small suction port built into the base of kitchen cabinetry, connected to a central vacuum system activated by pressing a foot pedal, was genuinely useful. It worked. Designers charged between $500 and $1,500 for it as part of a central vacuum package. The failure was not functional. It was behavioral. People forgot it existed within 3 months of installation, not because it stopped working, but because sweeping with a broom is a reflex and a foot pedal port requires remembering an alternative. It outlasted most items on this list by functioning perfectly and being completely ignored. 6. The wine chiller in the island. Wine chillers integrated into kitchen islands became almost standard in luxury builds of the 2000s. Costs ran between $1,000 and $4,000 depending on capacity and brand. Here is the problem. Kitchen islands are high traffic zones. The compressor in an under-counter wine chiller generates vibration. Prolonged low-frequency vibration disturbs wine sediment and disrupts the chemical development of aging bottles. The wine chiller built into the busiest surface in your kitchen is technically one of the worst places on earth to store wine. Most sommeliers have known this for decades. Most kitchen designers have not mentioned it. The units continue to sell extremely well. 5. The smart kitchen ecosystem. Starting around 2015, major appliance brands including Samsung, LG, and Whirlpool began building interconnected appliance ecosystems where the refrigerator, oven, dishwasher, and cooktop could all communicate through a central app and respond to voice commands. Fully integrated kitchen packages cost between $15,000 and $40,000. The concept was coherent in demonstrations. In practice, it required all appliances to be from the same manufacturer on the same firmware version and connected to the same home network simultaneously, conditions that proved nearly impossible to maintain across a 5-year period. App updates broke device compatibility. Firmware updates for one appliance created conflicts with another. Owners discovered that the appliances functioned perfectly as individual units and with maddening inconsistency as a connected system. The refrigerator's still cool. The ovens still heat. The ecosystem itself no longer exists in any of its original forms. 4. The refrigerated kitchen island. This is the one that genuinely surprised me when I found out how far it went. In the late 2000 and early 2010, ultra-luxury kitchen designers began building refrigeration directly into stone island tops, chilled countertop sections that kept ingredients at temperature during prep without removing them from the refrigerator. Installed costs started at $20,000. The surface chilling technology required substantial under-island mechanical systems that occupied most of the cabinet space below. Condensation management was a persistent problem. Chilled stone in a warm kitchen creates moisture that migrates into surrounding cabinetry and subfloor materials. And when the compressor systems needed service, they required dismantling the island itself to access them. Most were installed in kitchens where the entertaining value of the feature exceeded its actual cooking utility by a significant margin. 3. The indoor pizza oven. Wood-fired pizza ovens built into residential kitchens were sold as an Italian farmhouse experience for the American luxury market throughout the 2000s. Proper masonry wood-fired ovens require curing, a process taking weeks of slow, graduated firing before the oven can handle cooking temperatures. They require specific wood types. They require chimney systems capable of handling combustion at temperatures exceeding 900 degrees Fahrenheit. They require cleaning between every use. They require insurance riders that most carriers initially refuse to write. Several municipalities classified them as open flame appliances, requiring commercial permits for residential installation. The ones properly installed produced extraordinary results. Most were used fewer than 20 times across their entire installed lives. Some were never successfully cured at all and never produced a single meal. 2. The built-in meat aging chamber. Dry aging chambers, climate-controlled cabinets maintaining precise temperature, humidity and airflow to age raw beef cuts over 21 to 45 days, became a status item in high-end kitchen builds of the 2010s. Units from specialized manufacturers started at $2,000 and ran past $10,000 for built-in configurations. The concept was real. Properly dry-aged beef is genuinely different in flavor and texture from anything available at a retail grocery store. The problem was the gap between concept and commitment. Aging beef correctly requires sourcing primal cuts from specific suppliers. It requires understanding mold management throughout the aging process. It requires patience measured in weeks. Most owners treated the chamber like a premium wine fridge for steaks and produced results ranging from disappointing to genuinely unsafe. Several units were returned after the first attempt. Several more were quietly repurposed as wine storage. 1. The connected kitchen of the future. This is the one. Not because it was the most expensive, though it was. Not because it failed the most visibly, though it did, because of what it reveals about every item on this entire list. In 2004, Microsoft partnered with Whirlpool, Electrolux, and LG to build what they called the Connected Home Kitchen, a fully networked cooking environment where appliances communicated with each other, with the internet, and with the homeowner through a central interface. Demonstration kitchens were built at trade shows across the country. Technology journalists called it the future of residential life. Installations in high-end custom builds cost between $50,000 and $150,000. The system required Microsoft's smart home infrastructure to function. Microsoft shut down that infrastructure in 2009. The physical appliances did not stop working. The refrigerators continued to cool. The ovens continued to heat. The induction cooktops still responded to touch. But the logic layer that tied them into a single intelligent system went dark. Every owner of a connected kitchen installation woke up one morning and found that their $100,000 cooking environment now required a manual. Every scheduled function, every remote command, every smart feature, gone. Not broken, just absent. The future had been present in their kitchens and then quietly left without announcing it was leaving. The oven still worked. The future just stopped being connected, and nobody called to tell them.
Chapter 4. The Luxury Bathroom Features.
Some of the most expensive features ever added to a luxury bathroom made them actively worse. The people who paid for these were not being reckless. They were following trends the entire industry swore would define the future of high-end design. Some of what you are about to hear will make you laugh. Some of it will make you genuinely uncomfortable if you own one of these homes right now. Stick around for number 1, because it is something still being found inside bathrooms during renovations today, and nobody who finds it is ever quite sure what to do next. These are 25 luxury bathroom features that cost a fortune and failed completely. 25. Gold-plated faucets. Here is something nobody tells you about gold plating. It is thin. Thinner than you probably imagine. By the 1980s, gold-plated bathroom hardware had become the definitive marker of American residential luxury. Builders charged 40 to 60% more to install it. Homeowners requested it by name in contracts. Designers specified it as non-negotiable. The problem was not the gold. It was the base metal underneath, usually a zinc alloy, which expanded and contracted with heat and cold at a fundamentally different rate than the plating above it. Within 7 to 10 years, the gold was lifting, bubbling, and flaking at the seams and joints. Fixtures that cost $3,000 in 1984 looked derelict by 1992. You cannot replate them cost-effectively once the bond fails. Most were simply discarded. 24. The built-in bathroom telephone. In 1976, a luxury home builder in Scottsdale, Arizona advertised a dedicated telephone as a standard feature in every master suite. Not a portable unit, not a speaker system, but a full hardwired telephone installed directly into the bathroom wall, sometimes with its own private line and a custom ringer. The pitch was executive convenience. The logic was not completely wrong. Wealthy homeowners wanted access to business calls during their morning routines. The problem was irreversibility. When cordless technology arrived within a decade, the wall unit became a fixture you could only use by walking to a specific point on a specific wall in a specific posture. When removed, it left an oversized penetration in the tile that required complete panel replacement. The phone disappeared. The damage was permanent. 23. The sunken bathtub. Let me be fair to this one for a moment because it genuinely looked extraordinary. In the 1960s and 70s, sunken bathtubs became the signature feature of high-end master bathrooms across Beverly Hills, Miami Beach, and Palm Springs. Recessed into raised marble platforms, surrounded by lit steps, some held nearly 200 gallons of water. The concept was theatrical, a bath as a ritual rather than a routine. What nobody adequately planned for was drainage management, step maintenance, and the behavior of stepped marble platforms under the daily stress of temperature and moisture. Grout lines on horizontal step surfaces collected mold in ways no vertical surface ever did. Elderly homeowners fell on the wet marble regularly. When the platform cracked, and they all cracked eventually, repair cost more than the original installation. Most were filled with concrete and retiled flat. The cavity is still there underneath. 22. Vibrating massage bathtubs. This was not a novelty product. In the 1950s and 60s, vibrating bathtubs were sold through upscale appliance dealers in New York City and Chicago as therapeutic recovery devices. Motorized vibration combined with hot water, marketed directly at circulation problems, muscle recovery, and general wellness. The pitch was medical adjacent, and in that era, medical adjacent marketing worked extremely well on affluent buyers. The motors were built directly into the tub frame and ran on standard household current. Vibration, water, and an electrical motor operating continuously in close proximity. That sentence should give you a moment of pause. They were withdrawn from the market quietly and without a formal recall announcement. No headlines, no regulatory statement, just a slow disappearance from product catalogs by the early 1970s. People who already owned them were not specifically told why they were no longer supported. 21. Fur and fabric wall panels inside bathrooms. In the late 1960s, a cohort of influential interior designers began specifying fabric wall panels, and in select cases genuine fur, inside high-end master bathrooms in Los Angeles, New York, and London. Not in the adjacent dressing room, inside the actual bathroom, covering the walls around the vanity and toilet enclosure. Some installations used mink sections. Some used velvet stretched over timber frames adhered to the tile substrate. They photographed beautifully. In actual daily use, they absorbed steam continuously, retained moisture behind the panel framing, and developed mold colonies within 12 to 18 months. The smell was not subtle or deniable. Complete removal required gutting the walls to the structural framing. Several properties in the Hollywood Hills underwent full bathroom demolition specifically because of this feature in the late 1970s. The designers who had specified it had already moved on to their next trend. If you are already reconsidering certain renovation decisions, and we are only 5 items in, you might want to subscribe before this list gets more unsettling. It gets considerably more unsettling. 20. Mirrored ceilings in master bathrooms. The residential mirrored ceiling peaked in the 1970s. In bathrooms specifically, designers promoted it as a technique for amplifying light and expanding the perceived volume of compact master suites. Some installations used plate glass mirrors adhered to the ceiling drywall with construction-grade adhesive. Others used mirrored tile sets. The failure was the adhesive bond under daily humidity cycling, steam levels climbing past 80% and then dropping back day after day, year after year. The bond degraded invisibly until sections began releasing. A mirrored tile falling from a bathroom ceiling is not a minor event. Personal injury claims appeared in the 1980s. Full removal is labor-intensive even when the glass remains intact. In most homes built between 1970 and 1980, you can still find the rectangular ghost of adhesive residue on the ceiling long after the mirrors themselves are gone. The room holds the shape of what was there. 19. Built-in wall-mounted hair dryers. Luxury hotel bathrooms in Las Vegas began installing recessed, hardwired hair dryers in the late 1960s, a flush-mounted appliance built directly into the wall with no cord and no countertop footprint. By the mid-1970s, the feature had moved into high-end residential construction as a premium upgrade builders offered at additional cost. The problem was wattage capacity. Built-in units of that period peaked at around 1,200 watts. Consumer portable dryers were already exceeding 1,600 watts and moving toward 2,000. The built-in unit could not be upgraded without rewiring the bathroom circuit, which required opening the wall. Homeowners who specifically paid a premium for this feature stopped using it within 2 years of purchase, replacing it with a portable unit they plugged in beside it. The recessed housing stayed in the wall. Usually it was painted over. 18. Residential tanning beds installed in master bathrooms. A specific tier of luxury residential construction, properties above $1.5 million in California, Florida, and Texas, began incorporating tanning beds as integrated bathroom features in the 1980s, not in a dedicated wellness room. Inside the master bathroom, recessed into custom millwork designed to match the surrounding vanity cabinetry. Dedicated electrical sub-panels. Custom ventilation systems. The installation cost alone was considerable before the unit itself was factored in. In 2006, the International Agency for Research on Cancer moved tanning devices into Group 1 carcinogen classification, the agency's highest risk designation, shared with tobacco and asbestos. The feature became legally complex to disclose during real estate transactions. Some owners removed the equipment entirely and refinished the floor. Others sold the homes without specific disclosure. The electrical infrastructure those units required is still present in the walls of a number of those bathrooms. 17. Chromotherapy lighting systems. Chromotherapy is not medicine. It has never been classified as medicine by any regulatory body in any country. But between approximately 2000 and 2010, full RGB color cycling lighting systems were installed in luxury shower enclosures and bathing areas with documented promises of mood regulation, stress reduction, and therapeutic benefit. Systems ran between $3,000 and $15,000 fully installed. The control panels were set into the shower wall and were not genuinely waterproof by any rigorous engineering standard. They were resistant, not sealed. Moisture reached the electronics within 4 to 6 years. Proprietary replacement parts were discontinued before the hardware actually failed in most cases, which meant the system became inoperable while it was still physically intact. The wiring remained embedded in a tiled wall that could not be opened without breaking the surface. The promise had never been testable. The bill had been very real. 16. Smart mirror television screens. The smart mirror television entered high-end residential bathrooms around 2007. The concept was genuinely elegant, a reflective surface that activated as a screen and returned to mirror when idle. Entry-level units started at $8,000 for a 30-inch installation. Plasma and early LCD technology used in these units could not sustain reliable performance through years of daily humidity exposure. Mirror coatings delaminated from the edges inward. Software became obsolete faster than the hardware degraded, which is saying something because the hardware degraded quickly. By 2012, smart mirror televisions were appearing in estate sales at a fraction of original cost. The units still installed in bathrooms today are running operating systems that cannot authenticate with any streaming platform currently in commercial operation. The mirror still reflects. The screen has run out of things to show. 15. The oversized Whirlpool jet tub. This part never made sense to me. And then it did. Roy Jacuzzi invented his portable therapeutic pump in 1968. By the 1980s, full-in-tub jet systems had become the primary status marker of an American luxury master bathroom. Builders competed on jet count. 12 jets, 20 jets, 32 jets. Some tubs held 150 gallons. Nobody adequately explained the pipe network involved. A sealed internal channel system behind the tub wall that held standing water between every use. That water sat. It was warm. It was dark. Studies published in the 2000s found measurable fecal coliform bacteria in the jet pipe systems of standard Whirlpool tubs that had not been cleaned between the internal channels themselves. Most homeowners had no idea the pipe network needed separate maintenance. The jets looked pristine. The pipes, reliably, did not. 14. Built-in automated scent dispensers. In the early 2000s, automated fragrance delivery systems built into the ventilation infrastructure of luxury master bathrooms appeared briefly in European residential design and then entered American high-end condominiums and custom homes. Wall-mounted or ceiling-integrated units. Fragrance cartridges available exclusively through the original manufacturer. No third-party refills, no universal compatibility. Prices from $2,000 to $12,000 per installation. When manufacturers discontinued their product lines, which most of them did within 4 to 6 years of launch, owners were left with a hardwired device permanently embedded in their wall that accepted no available replacement cartridge and dispensed nothing. Several lawsuits were filed against manufacturers over discontinued consumables and implied product longevity. None of them succeeded. The device is still in the wall. 13. First-generation digital shower control systems. The concept was genuinely impressive. Touchscreen interfaces built into shower walls in the early 2000s could set water temperature to the exact degree, control multiple spray zones independently, and save personalized profiles for each household member. Installed systems ran from $4,000 to $25,000. The failure was a timeline collision. Consumer electronics operating on a 3 to 5 year obsolescence cycle, embedded inside walls designed to remain untouched for 30 years. Software stopped receiving support. Touchscreen panels became unresponsive. The proprietary valve assemblies required by the digital system were not interchangeable with any standard plumbing component. Several homeowners discovered that the repair quote for their malfunctioning digital shower system was effectively identical to the quote for replacing the entire shower system. That is not a paraphrased summary. That is what the repair estimates actually said. 12. Motorized vanity mirror lift systems. In the 1980s, custom bathroom fabricators in New York City and Los Angeles offered motorized vanity mirrors that descended from ceiling housings or rose from counter panels on electric mechanisms adjustable to the exact standing height of each individual user. The ergonomic concept was considered and the execution was precise. These installations were expensive, in some cases exceeding the cost of the rest of the bathroom combined. The motor mechanisms and cable systems were not rated for the humidity levels of daily bathroom use over years. They seized. Cables corroded inside the housings. The mirror glass became impossible to rebalance once the mechanism failed asymmetrically. Repair required the original custom fabricator, who in most cases had closed or relocated within 15 years of installation. The mirrors were removed by force. The mechanisms were left inside the ceiling cavities because accessing them required structural damage nobody wanted to authorize. 11. Radium-enhanced bathroom products. Between approximately 1910 and 1930, radioactivity was not fringe science. It was mainstream medical optimism. The physics were new and the enthusiasm was total, and it extended directly into luxury consumer goods. Bathroom products marketed on radium content included ceramic tile glazes, bath salt preparations, and skin creams sold through department stores in Chicago, New York, and London. The Revigator, a ceramic water crock lined with radioactive ore, was sold explicitly as a home wellness device. You filled it with water overnight. The water absorbed radiation during the hours it sat. You drank it in the morning as a health practice. This was the premium wellness product of its specific cultural moment. Certain ceramic tile glazes from this period, present in unrenovated bathrooms of pre-1935 homes, are measurably radioactive today. Not acutely, not dangerously by current standards, but measurably. A Geiger counter in the wrong old bathroom still registers a reading above ambient background. 10. Asbestos, luxury floor tile. Here is the part that is genuinely difficult to absorb. Asbestos tile was the premium option. Vinyl asbestos tile, produced commercially from approximately 1920 through 1977, was installed in luxury master bathrooms specifically because of its exceptional durability, its polished surface finish, and its superior resistance to moisture compared to every available alternative. Builders selected it deliberately. Architects specified it by name. It was not a cost-saving substitution. It was the material of choice for people who understood materials. The chrysotile fibers bonded into the tile matrix remain stable when the tile is completely intact. The moment that tile is sanded, cut, drilled, or fractured during renovation, which is precisely when people discover it, the fibers become airborne in a room with no ventilation. Millions of American homes built before 1980 contain asbestos floor tile in bathrooms. A significant portion of those tiles are still there, encapsulated under newer flooring, because disturbing them is considered more dangerous than leaving them where they are. 9. Early automated self-cleaning toilet systems. In the 1990s, a category of luxury toilet emerged that automatically rinsed and sanitized the bowl interior after each use, a distinct product from the full electronic bidet combination. Several American manufacturers produced versions of this system between 1995 and 2005. Each unit required its own dedicated water supply line, its own drain connection, and its own electrical feed. The internal spray nozzles calcified quickly in hard water conditions, which describes the majority of municipal water systems across the continental United States. Repair required a specialist trained on that specific proprietary system, because the internal valve and spray assemblies were not compatible with any standard plumbing component. Most units were eventually removed and replaced with conventional toilets. The extra drain line, the additional supply stub, and the dedicated electrical outlet they required remain inside those bathroom walls. They connect to nothing useful now. They are just evidence that something was there. 8. Built-in in-wall bathroom audio systems. From the 1980s through the 2000s, high-end bathroom renovations routinely included hardwired in-wall speaker systems connected to centralized whole-home audio equipment. The speakers engineered specifically for humid environments were genuinely high quality, measurably better than standard residential speakers of the same period. The audio argument was real and defensible. The failure was dependency. When home audio technology shifted format, from analog distribution to digital, from wired to wireless, from proprietary whole home systems to streaming, the bathroom speakers became inert boxes embedded in finished tile. Retrofitting a wireless receiver was technically possible but cost nearly as much as the original installation and required opening the wall in most configurations. Many were converted. Many more were simply abandoned and the speaker grills painted over. The grills are still visible. The wires behind them reach equipment that no longer exists. 7. The architectural waterfall tub filler. The wide, flat-edged spout, delivering a sheet of falling water rather than a focused stream, became the definitive prestige visual element of luxury bathroom design from approximately 2000 through 2015. Design publications ran it constantly. Showrooms built displays around it. The actual functional experience was different from the photograph. The broad flow pattern delivered water to a narrow band on one side of the tub, extending fill time substantially for any tub exceeding 50 gallons. Hard water mineral deposits on the flat spout surface were immediate, highly visible, and nearly impossible to remove completely without disassembling the fixture from the wall. The look that sold the feature was the look that vanished after 30 days of use. The fixtures are still installed in thousands of bathrooms. Most of them look exactly like what happens when calcium-rich water hits a broad decorative surface continuously for a decade. 6. Residential steam room conversions. Beginning in the 1990s, converting an existing master shower into a full residential steam enclosure became a recurring high-end renovation across the American Northeast and California. Steam generators, fully sealed glass enclosures, digital temperature controls, sold and installed as an integrated luxury system. Project costs ranged from $8,000 to $30,000 depending on size and specification. The enclosure demanded perfect installation of every tile, every grout joint, and every door seal to function correctly over time. Steam at 110 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit finds every imperfection in a wall assembly with consistent, patient pressure. Within 2 to 5 years, in the majority of installations, moisture was reaching the structural framing behind the tile, establishing mold colonies inside the wall cavity that were completely invisible from the bathroom surface. The damage was not discovered until contractors opened the wall for a different reason. In many of those cases, the steam generator itself was still operating correctly. The room it lived in was being demolished around it. 5. early electric radiant floor heating systems. The idea was not wrong. Stepping onto a warm floor in a cold bathroom is genuinely one of the better experiences available in a domestic space, and radiant floor heating has historical roots reaching back to ancient Roman engineering. The luxury electric version that entered American residential construction in the 1980s used resistance wire mats embedded in mortar beneath ceramic or stone tile. The concept was correct. The execution depended entirely on installer competence and care. The wire mat had to be embedded at precise depth without any cut, nick, fold, or sharp bend. A single contact from a tile saw blade, a single staple through the mat, a single kink under a heavy tile created either a dead zone or a localized resistance point, generating concentrated excess heat in a sealed location beneath your floor. Several house fires during the 1990s were attributed to improperly installed radiant floor systems that had been operating for years before the failure became visible. Here is the part I cannot stop thinking about. A significant number of failed installations were only discovered during later renovations, years or even decades after the original work, when contractors pulled up the flooring and found evidence of scorching beneath the mat. Heat damage that had happened silently in a sealed cavity under a surface nobody ever had reason to open. There was no way to know whether the smolder had already spread somewhere it was not found. There was no alarm for that. There never had been. 4. First-generation American automated bidet toilet combinations. Japan had been manufacturing sophisticated electronic toilet seats since the early 1980s, with documented reliability and growing domestic adoption. By 2005, American luxury bathroom designers were importing and installing full combination units, integrated bidet function, heated seat, automated lid operation, warm air drying, bowl deodorization, in high-end residential renovation projects. Units ranged from $2,000 to $8,000 per installation. The toilet technology itself was reliable. The electrical infrastructure connecting it in American homes frequently was not. American bathrooms of that period were not routinely wired with the dedicated circuits these units required to operate safely. Rather than run new electrical lines, which meant opening finished walls at significant cost, installers shared circuits or used adapter configurations that technically violated local electrical code but were difficult to inspect after the walls were closed. Ground fault issues developed. Breakers tripped at notable moments. Documentation of these non-standard electrical configurations was rarely filed with the original permit and was almost never disclosed at the time of property sale. The homes transferred to new owners. The owners inherited whatever the original installer had decided not to put in writing. Many of those units are still installed and still operating on circuits they were never designed to share, in rooms whose electrical history exists nowhere in any record. 3. The full marble bathroom. Here is what nobody in the 1980s luxury market was willing to say out loud. Marble is a genuinely bad material for a bathroom. Not aesthetically. Aesthetically, it is among the most commanding surfaces available to a designer. But as a functional material in a room that is defined by water, soap, steam, cleaning chemicals, and the daily accumulation of organic material, it is close to the worst structural choice available. Marble is calcium carbonate. It reacts chemically with any acid, including the citric acid present in common cleaning products, the carbonic acid in hard water deposits, the weak acids in shampoo and personal care products, and even the mild acids produced by soap scum. It etches on contact. It stains through the polished surface into the stone structure itself. It is porous and absorbs moisture, creating an environment where bacteria accumulate in ways sealed surfaces do not. It expands and contracts with temperature changes, progressively opening grout joints and eventually fracturing the stone. Maintaining a full marble bathroom, floors, walls, shower surround, countertops, required professional sealing at minimum every 6 to 12 months to preserve any reasonable appearance. Most homeowners were not told this at purchase. By the late 1990s, bathrooms that had cost between $40,000 and $80,000 to install were looking like the interior of an abandoned public facility. The material selected specifically to signal permanence and timeless wealth required constant expert intervention simply to not look like the opposite of what it had promised. That is not an irony. That is a material failure hidden inside an aesthetic success, and the industry knew it. 2. The luxury digital shower ecosystem. Kohler introduced its DTV digital shower experience platform in the mid-2000s, and it was legitimately impressive engineering. A single touchscreen interface controlled water temperature to the exact degree, steam output, body spray zones, overhead rainfall heads, and integrated audio, all programmable by individual user profile, all operating in coordination as a unified system. The top-tier installations exceeded $20,000 and appeared in projects for people who understood exactly what precision engineering cost. The failure was not the quality of the product. The failure was that software ages on a consumer electronics timeline and a shower system operates on a plumbing timeline, and nobody had fully mapped what happened when those two timelines diverged inside an investment of that size. The DTV firmware was updated, then maintained at a fixed version, then eventually sunset by the manufacturer as platform development moved forward. The physical hardware continued functioning. The interface became progressively less capable and less responsive. Early versions of the platform did not include a mechanical override, no manual valve that could bypass the digital controller if the interface failed. When the system malfunctioned, there was no workaround that did not require calling a specialist who might inform you that the specific component you needed had been discontinued. The water was there, behind the wall. The system simply would not authorize access to it. That is a specific category of failure that luxury technology produces, the kind where everything technically continues to exist and nothing actually works, and the gap between those two facts costs more than most people spend on an entire bathroom. 1. Uranium glass bathroom accessories. This is the one. Between approximately 1920 and 1943, a specific category of decorative glass, produced by incorporating uranium oxide into the molten glass mixture during manufacturing, was used in luxury bathroom accessories throughout Europe and the United States. Perfume bottles, soap dishes, toothbrush holders. In certain high-end residential installations, small decorative tile inserts in fashionable city apartments and country estates. The glass had a characteristic pale yellow-green color that, under ultraviolet light, produced a vivid and completely unmistakable luminescence. It was sold in department stores in London, Paris, and New York. It appeared in the bathrooms of households that cared deeply about aesthetic refinement. It was beautiful in a way that genuine beauty operates, not performed, not approximate, but actual. That part is not complicated. Uranium glass is not intensely radioactive by the standards that trigger regulatory response or medical intervention. The uranium content is low. The objects were sold legally and remain legally owned today. But the radiation is not theoretical. A Geiger counter held near a uranium glass soap dish will register a reading above ambient background. It will click. The dish sitting on a bathroom shelf for 80 years has been emitting low-level ionizing radiation for 80 years, continuously, into a room where people stood for extended periods performing the unguarded rituals of ordinary daily life. Nobody who sold these objects knew they were causing measurable harm. The physics were newly understood, and the confidence was genuine, and the aesthetic was real, and people bought these things because they were beautiful, which has always been a sufficient reason. Some of these objects are still in bathrooms and antique collections today. Still on shelves, still glowing if you hold an ultraviolet lamp close enough. Still registering if you hold a Geiger counter closer. The bathroom does not know you are standing in it. The glass does not know it is still doing what it has always done. And that sound, the clicking in an old room from an object someone chose with care and kept with pride for reasons that made complete sense at the time, is not a horror. It is something quieter than that. It is what it looks like when a generation does the best it can with what it knows and leaves the rest for whoever comes next to figure out. Every single feature in this list was installed by someone who believed they were building something better than what existed before. The failure is never in the intention, it is in the certainty. The absolute confidence that this time the solution would last, that this time the material would hold, that this time the technology would not age. Every generation inherits the confident mistakes of the one before it, mostly hidden behind finished surfaces nobody has opened yet. Drop a comment if you have ever pulled back a wall, lifted a floor, or opened a cabinet in an old house and found something that changed how you felt about the room. I read everyone. If anything in this list made you look at a space differently, subscribe, because this is far from the strangest thing this channel covers. Thanks for watching, and do not forget to subscribe.